Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be tier ranking every book that I read this year. So I have been wanting to do this video. I've seen so many people do it. I thought it looked so fun. So that's what we're gonna do today. I made this tier rank. I'm gonna screen record my computer and we are just gonna go through and rank every single book that I read in 2024. I'll go through the tiers that I made, and I also have every book in the order that I read it. So we'll start with the first book that I read to the year to the last book that I read. But before we get into that, I did want to read off some of my stats because I think they're kind of fun. So my Goodreads stats, the official number of books that I read for 2024 was 98 books. And I'll go through the Goodreads stuff here. I read 37,076 pages. I read 98 books in total. My shortest book was Shadow Me, which was one of the novellas of the Shatter Me series, 69 pages. My longest book was A Court of Silver Flames, 757 pages. Average book length was 378 pages, which feels like right. Like I read quite a few novellas this year, but then I also read some pretty long books too. My most shelved book was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. 6.3 million people shelved that. And then my least shelved book was The Summers We Left Behind by Margaret Grimm, and only 2,000 people shelved that book. My average rating, what Goodreads says is 3.6, but we'll go on to Fable in a minute because Goodreads doesn't let you do like halves and quarter stars. So when I go on to Fable, it'll give me more of like my accurate rating because there you can do like halves and stuff. The highest rated book on Goodreads that I read was A Court of Mist and Fury, which I'm now gonna go into Fable. I started using Fable like halfway through this year, and you can log all of your Goodreads data, and I loved using this because you get just like a lot more stuff out of it. I don't know, it's fun. The best streak, which I often forgot to use this, and I do want to get better about doing that this year, but my best streak was 9 days. So you can like log every day that you've read. So my best streak was 9 days in a row. And then this one says my average rating is 3.8 stars. So I feel like that's more accurate because it includes like all those halves and all that stuff. And then this is just kind of the breakdown of how many books I read in each month. You can definitely see the months where I slumped. April and November, very much months that I slumped. And then for most read genres, and there's like some overlap here. So there's 78 romance, 27 fantasy, 22 young adult, 13 sports, and 13 thrillers. Now we are going to get into what the tiers are. So the top tier, these are my best of the best this year, and that I put inject this book into my veins. The second one down, it's that Lady Gaga quote, if you guys know the
talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing shows.
These are books that are like also really good, top, definitely up there, but like not a book that I'm like, oh my God, that is the best book I've ever read. You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. Would recommend, but not a fave. So these are books where maybe it wasn't for me, but I could see somebody else that would like it. TBH, I forgot I read this. Going through this list and putting all these together, there were definitely books where I was like, I read that this year? Like, I don't really remember, or I'm like, I don't remember the plot. So that, and then I wish I never read this. Those are the books where I'm just like, you know, maybe the year would have been better without them. So we are gonna go ahead and get started. I'm so excited. So the very first book that I read this year, I actually started at the end of 2023, but I finished it in 2024. I actually finished it on the 1st, and that is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. And I'm gonna go ahead and say, I wish I never read this. When I read this book, I was like, oh, you know, there's so many people that love it. Like maybe it was just this book. People love this series, people love her writing. So I read the second one and I hated that even more, and I actually DNF'd it. So I just don't know that her writing is necessarily for me. And I actually really disliked this book strongly. So next up we have A Court of Thorns and Roses. I'm gonna go and say You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great, because I really was excited to get into the ACOTAR series. In the first book, I was like, okay, I want to like it. The first book is just a book that you need, and that's what everyone told me. They were like, you just need that book to set the scene and to get all the backstory, and then it starts to get better, which it absolutely did, because I will be putting A Court of Mist and Fury, oh, I meant to put it up here, and A Court of Wings and Ruin are both going straight to the top. Inject both of those books into my veins. I loved those books so much. I remember just being so invested. The last 100 pages, Sarah J. Maas is always taking you on a whirlwind. So good, so good. A Court of Frost and Starlight, I'll say You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. I mean, it's a short novella in between. I enjoyed it because you just got to see all the characters like being happy, which was nice. If you're reading the series, I would still say read it, but it's not like life-changing or anything. And then A Court of Silver Flames, also gonna go ahead and put that up here and inject this book into my veins. It is so good. Like, the arc that we get for Cassian and Nesta is incredible. All right, then we're gonna move to Addicted to You. So this is the first of the Addicted series. So I started that this year, like I said. I'm gonna go You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. I feel the same way about this that I do with the first ACOTAR book, where I read the first book of the series and I'm like, okay, this is such a loved series. Like, it has to get better than this. And it definitely does. I feel like the first book is good, but I was like, I'm waiting for more. And I did end up getting more as the book series went on. Ricochet, this is the second book in the Addicted series. And I'll put this one in would recommend, but not a fave. I feel like this book was good. I did give this one 4 stars, but I feel like it was a shorter one and it was kind of like a filler book. I mean, you definitely got some like context on situations and there was a lot of growth, but I don't know. I feel like thinking back, that wasn't a book that I like really remember much. It did for now. I have a little note that I wrote down because I am having to look back at my notes of these books, because especially the books from the beginning of the year, I'm like, wait, what even happened in this book? But I literally wrote down, I feel like this is the book where I really started connecting to the characters and loving their stories. And I like actually felt invested in the books. I don't know if it's like Talented, Brilliant, Incredible. I think I'll put it in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. It was still very good. I still really enjoyed that one. Like I said, I felt like I finally started to understand the series and what was gonna happen, but I still don't feel like that was like one of the more top reads of the year. And we have Circus Train, and this book actually really surprised me with how much I enjoyed it. It was really good. Like, I was not expecting it at all. I actually really enjoyed this one. I think I'm gonna put it up here. It was really good. It was honestly really good. I really liked it. Next we have Buy Yourself the Fucking Lilies. Honestly, TBH, I forgot I read this. Don't think self-help books are for me. I understand people that love them, but I just don't think that they're for me. Then we have I've Got This Round. This is hard because it's a memoir, so it's like very different rating than other books, obviously. And this is by somebody that I love. She's a content creator that I love. And it was so fun hearing her story, genuinely laughing out loud. I listened to the audiobook and really liked it. I think I'm gonna put this one up here in the Talented, Brilliant, Incredible. It was really good. I liked it. Then we have Trial of the Sun Queen. I am gonna put this one in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. It was the first book of the series. It was really good. It is the same way I feel about a lot of first books of series, where it's like, it's not the best one, but you need it to like set up for the other books. Still really enjoyed it, love that series. This was just kind of setting the tone. Next we have Bringing Down the Duke. I'm also gonna say, TBH, I forgot I read this. I do not remember a single thing about this book. I know it is a like Regency era romance, and that's about all that I remember. I don't remember a single character's name. I remember it wasn't for me. I didn't love it. Then we have the Alice Network. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in Talented, Brilliant, Incredible. This book was so good. Actually, do I bump this up? I'm gonna bump it up because thinking back, this was one of my top reads of the year. It was so good. It genuinely made me want to read more historical fiction. And as soon as I was done, I was like, I need more books like this. And like, I recommended it to people in my personal life, which is like, if I recommend a book to someone in my personal life, like, you know it's good. So yeah, I think that one we're injecting into the veins. The Housemaid's Secret. This is the second one. I feel like it just got repetitive after the first one, and the third one's in here later, and that one got extra repetitive. It was good, but I feel like after the first twist of The Housemaid, which I loved so much, I was like, like, I kind of saw this coming. So, The Girls. Wish I never read this. I did not enjoy this book at all. I actually tried to pick it up like probably a year and a half prior to that, DNF'd it, and then I was like, okay, let me try and get back to this, and I did not enjoy it. It's just not a book for me. That style of writing and that style of book and genre is just not something that I'm interested in, and yeah, I was not a fan of this one. Then we have A Man Called Ove. I think I'm gonna put this one here. I really did enjoy this one. It was so sweet, such a good story. I don't know, it was the top read of the year for sure. Okay, then we have The Way I Am Now. I think I'll say would recommend, but not a fave. This is the second book in a series, and I feel like you kind of didn't need the second book. Like, I feel like we got enough closure in the first book. So I don't know that this one was like necessarily needed. I mean, it was nice to see these characters again, but I don't think I needed it, you know? And we have Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. This one, I'm gonna go Talented, Brilliant, Incredible. Of the Magnolia Parks books, I still really enjoyed this one. It was a top read of the year. I did love it. But I don't know if it's like injected into my veins level. Like, I don't know. I remember this one not being exactly what I thought it was gonna be. I'd rated the other two Magnolia Parks books 5 stars, I'm pretty sure. Or at least I rated the second one 5 stars. So I was kind of expecting this one to be a 5-star, and it wasn't. But I still loved it and loved this series, and it was a very good closure for Magnolia and BJ. It was like the closure that they needed for their story. Then we have Bride. Everyone has feelings on Bride, I feel like. I guess I'll say would recommend, but not a fave. I do love Ali Hazelwood's writing. I think it's very unique. I don't think the vampire werewolf romances are necessarily for me, but her writing is good. And there were parts that I enjoyed, but then there were parts where I was also like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? I'm not enjoying this. If only I had told her, TBH, I forgot I read this. I feel like this was not needed. Again, the same way I feel about The Way I Am Now, I don't feel like this book was necessarily needed to continue the story. Ghost Set of Watchmen, I wish I never read this. I really thoroughly did not enjoy this. I don't remember why I read this. I think I pulled it for a TBR prompt, but I did not like this. This is like what happens after To Kill a Mockingbird, which I remember reading that in high school and loved it then. Don't know if I would still love it now, obviously, because it's been several years, but this I hated. It was bad. Like, I don't often say that a book is bad, but I hate to say it, but I think this book was bad. Then we have House in the Cerulean Sea. This one is going up to inject this book into my veins. I loved this book so much this year. I read this in I think like March, and honestly haven't stopped thinking about it. It is so good. I love the Aurora King. I'll put that in the Talented, Brilliant, Incredible, Amazing, Show-Stopping, Spectacular. That one I really loved. Like, the story took a turn, especially at the end of Trial of the Sun Queen, and we got to learn so much more information. It was so entertaining. The twists, the turns, it was so good. We have Kiss the Sky. I'm gonna say would recommend, but not a fave. Rose and Connor are not my favorite couple. They're actually my least favorite couple of the 3 of the Calloway sisters. I know people are obsessed with them and love them, but for me, I just don't love their storyline. I don't see the chemistry between them. It wasn't my fave, like, reading their story. Then we have Hot House Flower. This is the first of Reich and Daisy's books. They are my faves for sure. I'm gonna put this in the Talented, Brilliant. I really loved this one. I just love their story. Their love story is just like none other to me. Like, I just am obsessed with it. We have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Is this gonna be injected into my veins perhaps? I think it has to be. I really loved this book this year. I had such a good time reading it. It got me out of a book slump, which is so good. And yeah, it was really good. Like, I really enjoyed it. I love her writing. She's phenomenal. I will read anything that Abby Jimenez writes and probably enjoy it. Then we have Funny Story by Emily Henry. I think I'm gonna put this in the Talented, Brilliant. Now, I will say, I think I need to do a reread of this book, and it's actually on my plans for 2025 is to reread this. I don't know what it was. I think I went into this book with way too many expectations, and I think I almost ruined it for myself, so I feel like I need to reread it. Still loved it, but I feel like it has the potential to do more for me, but I just need to read it again. Wild Love, gonna go ahead and put that up here and inject this book into my veins. I love Elsie Silver. I love me a cowboy romance. I love Ford in this book. So good. Rosie, obsessed. Powerful, this is the novella between the first two books in the Powerless trilogy. Say You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. I mean, it was interesting to see a different character's point of view. Then we have Thrive. This one follows Lily and Lo during the time periods of Kiss the Sky and Hot House Flower. I'm gonna say would recommend, but not a fave. I feel like this one, you're kind of rehashing a lot of stuff that already happened, but just in a different character's point of view. It was good, but not like my favorite book of the series. Then we have Addicted After All. This one I loved so much. It was the wrap up of Lily and Lo's story. So beautiful, so much growth, so much happiness for them. I loved it. Fuel the Fire is the other Rose and Connor book. I'm gonna say the same thing, would recommend, but not a fave. Obviously, I love the series as a whole, but like I said, Rose and Connor are not my fave couple. So they're not my favorite people to read about. Then we have A Long Way Down. This one's gonna go right up here to The Talented Brilliant. Again, this is Reich and Daisy's final book. Loved it. I love reading about them. I kind of want to reread this book because I just want to read about them again. And then we have Some Kind of Perfect. So this is the final book, the wrap up, the extended epilogue. I'm gonna put this in The Talented Brilliant. It was really nice seeing all the characters and everything wrap up for them. I really enjoyed that aspect, and yeah, I didn't want it to end, honestly. I remember reading it and I was like, I could read another 600 pages of this. It's like a 600-page book, and I was like, I could read more because I just loved seeing how their stories ended. Then we have This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I'm gonna put this in The Talented Brilliant Incredible. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I feel like Carly Fortune is kind of hit or miss, but I was like going into this open-minded and I really, really enjoyed this book. Like, I loved the characters. I thought the concept was interesting, and the writing and the scenery and everything, it was really good. Then we have The Unhoneymooners, and I'm gonna say, I wish I never read this. I do not like this book at all. The male main character was so insufferable, and he literally was so just like mean to her, like genuinely mean. And I was like, why does she like him? I don't understand. Next we have The Infinity Between Us by N.S. Perkins. I'm gonna say You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. I read this in like literally a day, I think, on the beach. It's a very quick read. It really reminded me of The Summer I Turned Pretty because it's like about two families that grew up next to each other and like always would go to the beach in the summer. And I thought it was cute. The romance was sweet. Honestly, not one that I think about often. The Summers We Left Behind, I'm gonna say TBH, I forgot I read this. I read The Infinity Between Us, The Summers We Left Behind, and Six Summers to Fall all in a row within like 3 days. I was on the beach, and I don't remember like what happens in which one, but I especially don't remember The Summers We Left Behind. I'm like, wait. I like read back the summary and I was like, hold on, that's what happened? I'm like, I don't remember, and I don't think I enjoyed it either. Then we have Six Summers to Fall. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was very sweet. It was a very fun, easy, light summer romance. I don't know if it's up to like the Talented Brilliant level, so I guess I'm just gonna put it in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. But I don't really have anything that I'm like, I hated about it. You know, it just wasn't like the best book ever, but it was still good. Then we have Darling Girls. I don't know how to feel about this one, to be honest. There were definitely twists and turns, and there were some interesting aspects of it. I guess I'll put in would recommend, but not a fave. Then we have Fate of the Sun King. This one was so good. The twist at the end literally had me like jump out of bed. I remember like I was laying down and I was like, I need to be sitting up to read this. I'm gonna put that one in The Talented, Incredible, Brilliant. The Housemaid is Watching. This one, like I said earlier, it just got repetitive at this point, and it was like, why are we still making a book that feels like it has the same storyline? Not in Love. I think I'm gonna say would recommend, but not a fave. I just feel like I remember being very bored reading this book, and I was just not very invested in the characters. Then we have the rom-commers. This was a top book of the year. I really, really loved this book so much. I remember being so giddy reading this book. I remember laying in bed and like giggling and kicking my feet. I'm gonna put this one in The Talented, Amazing. Then we have Heartstopper, the first volume. This was so cute. Like, I was not expecting to love this as much as I did. This was the first graphic novel I ever read, and wow, yeah, I loved it. This one is definitely going into The Talented, Incredible, Brilliant. Loved it. 7 Days in June. I'm gonna go ahead and put this book into Inject It in My Veins, actually, because I really, really loved this book this year. It was so moving, and like I just remember thinking about this book a lot. Like I just continued to think about it after I finished it, and I feel like that is a sign that I really loved a book, because a lot of times after I read a book, I immediately forget what it's about. And this one, that did not happen. Then we have Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. We already know where this is going, right up here. One of my favorite books of all time. This was a reread this year, and it hit even harder, and I absolutely sobbed. Then Daisy Jones and the Six. Also, this is gonna go right up here. This time I actually listened to it on the audiobook. So I'd read this book before, and then this time I decided to listen to the audiobook, and that was such a fun experience because they do a different voice for each person, and I really loved hearing it. It just felt like I was listening to a podcast at that point. Happy Place, also gonna go right up there. These were my 3 rereads of the year. I did a rereading my 5 stars, and these were 3 of my favorite books and will continue to be some of my favorite books of all time. We have Powerless, and this was a reread as well. This was also a part of that video, and I also wanted to reread it before Reckless came out. Inject this book into my veins. It is so good. And then we have Reckless, and I know that a lot of people didn't love this book. They weren't as happy with it, but for me, it's gonna go right on up to Inject This Book into My Veins. Her writing is like some of the best romantic-y writing that I've ever read. Like, it is so, so good. Then we have Play Along by Liz Tom Ford. What about this one in the Talented Brilliant? I really liked it. It was a top read of the year. I don't know if it's necessarily Injected into My Veins level, but it is very, very good. I highly recommend it. I just love a good sports romance. As you will see later, as you can probably see right here by this list we got going on right here of all these sports romances I read. 7 Year Slip. I kind of want to put this in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. I remember so many people talking about this book, and I was like really expecting to love it so much more than I did. I still liked it a lot. I thought it was very good, very interesting concept, but like people were like raving about this book, and I feel like I just didn't feel that level, and I kind of went into it with those expectations, which might have been my fault. But we have Hang the Moon. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in TBH, I forgot I read this. I honestly don't remember why I read this book. I think it's just been sitting on my TBR shelf for so long, and I just don't think it was a book for me. I did not enjoy it, and I don't remember literally anything about it. We have Done and Dusted. I'm gonna put this in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. Again, another book a lot of people raved about, and so I was really looking forward to it. And while it was still good, I feel like it was very short, and I feel like we didn't get a lot of depth on the characters. I was hoping for more depth and like more than just like a fluffy romance, which if you're looking for just like a very easy fluffy romance, then obviously this is perfect. But I don't know, I thought there was gonna be a little bit more emotional connection. The Deal, which is the first book of the Off Campus series, I liked this a lot. This was really, really good. This got me hooked into the series for sure. I think I'm gonna put this up here in the Talented Brilliant. This was so good. I mean, this is Hannah and Garrett. They're, I feel like, an iconic book talk couple that people always talk about. Then we have The Mistake. This is about Logan and Grace, and I also think this one was the Talented Brilliant. I really loved this one. I remember really, really loving Logan's character in that one. Then we have Allie and Dean. I also loved their story. It was like they kind of kept it secret and hid it from people, and there's something about that like kind of forbiddenness that I loved this one so much, and he was so down bad for her. So good. So this one's gonna go into the Talented Brilliant as well. Then we have The Goal. This one is Accidental Pregnancy Trope, and I think of those 4, it was probably my least favorite. I still liked it, but I think there was just such a slow burn with this one. Like, it took us so long to get anywhere that for that reason, I'm gonna put it in the You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. Then we have The Chase. Do I wish I never read this? I almost wish I never read this, because the guy in this is so insufferable. He just assumes she's like this stupid, dumb blonde. He's very much giving F-boy energy. Yeah, I don't even think I'd recommend it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in I wish I never read this. This was her worst of the books. I don't know what happened here, Elle Kennedy, but this one, this one was not it. We have The Risk. I really liked this one. I remember loving Brenna's character. They had a little bit of like a fake dating thing going on that I thought was cute. I don't remember like super having like crazy feelings about this book. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. Then we have The Play. I liked this one a lot. I loved Demi and Hunter's characters. I liked that they were just friends first. Like truly they were paired together for a class project and were just very much friends first, which I loved so much because I loved their friendship, and then it made it even better when they actually got together. So I'm gonna put this one up here in Talented, Brilliant, Incredible, Amazing. And then we have The Dare. This one is also fake dating, but it's like out of convenience. Also big miscommunication trope in this one, and I'm gonna say would recommend, like if you're reading the other books, I would say read this one. And then we have The Legacy. I'll say You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. This is like a little wrap up of the off-campus books. It's like a short novella for each couple, and it's good. I mean, it's not my favorite. I feel like you just get random little clips of their life, which it was like nice being back with those characters, but I don't think it's like anything crazy. Then we have The Fine Print. I feel like I'm gonna say You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. I really wanted to love this book more than I did. Everybody loves this series, and I do want to continue this series. I really enjoyed Lauren Asher's writing. There were just parts of this book that really annoyed me, and I feel like he just kept kind of messing up and screwing up, and then she would just go back to him, and I was like, he just keeps making these same mistakes over and over again. And there was like a lot of miscommunication that I didn't love, but there were other parts that I enjoyed. The concept of the fact that their family like basically owns Disney is like really cool, and I liked that part. But yeah, there were some parts that I just also didn't enjoy as much. We have The Pairing. I hate to say it, but I think I wish I never read this. This I thought was going to be so much better, and it was just like so much was about the food and wine tour that they went on and not enough about their romance. And then I felt like when we did have their romance, I wasn't invested in them. I didn't care about the characters. I don't know, that one just wasn't for me. Then we have Daydream. This was a top read of the year. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in the Talented, Brilliant. I really liked it. There was no miscommunication. It was so good. They communicated with each other so well, and they just like knew what the other person needed, which I loved. Like they both had their personal struggles that they were going through, and they just helped each other out so well. Then we have Firefly Lane. This was my top book of the year. If you didn't see that video, I posted that last week, but I loved this book so much. This is definitely going straight into inject this book into my veins. I think about this book all the time. And then I want to cry when I think about this book. Then we have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This one is also going into inject this book into my veins. Like I said, Elsie Silver is one of the best romance writers I've ever read. Like the way she does banter so perfectly, and I'm just like, every time I read her books, I know I'm going to be thoroughly entertained, and this one was no exception. Then we have Somewhere Beyond the Sea. This is the second book after The House in the Cerulean Sea. This was a little repetitive from the first book, but it was nice being back with the characters. I thought it was very sweet. I'll go with You Were Good, I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. It was still really good. Like I said, love those characters, but a lot of it was repetitive, or I felt like we didn't need a second book. This is what I feel like this with a lot of books. I've said this, like authors have a book that is very successful and goes viral, and then they feel like they need to make a second book afterwards, and I'm like, sometimes we don't need to. Sometimes the story can just be left there. And then I did my Sally Rooney rereads. So first we started with Conversations with Friends. I'm gonna say would recommend, but not a fave. This definitely is not my favorite of her books. Sally Rooney is a very specific taste of book. I feel like you have to like a specific type of writing. This one is not my favorite of her books. Then Normal People, we're gonna go ahead and put that right on up into Inject This Book into My Veins. My absolute favorite book of all time. I think about this book literally every single day, and it is ingrained in my brain. It is injected into my veins, actually, I think. I think I already have injected this book into my veins with how much I think about it. Beautiful World, Where Are You? I'm gonna say the same thing. Would recommend, but not a fave. These two books of Sally Rooney's are not my favorite of hers, but then obviously I'm obsessed with Normal People, and then we'll go into Intermezzo, which is her newest release, and I really, really loved this one. Like, this is the Sally Rooney writing that I love so much. Her writing is just phenomenal. I was so connected to these characters in this story and felt so emotionally for them. Like, it was so good. Then we have Swift and Saddled. This one was really cute. I really enjoyed this one. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in the Talented Brilliant. I liked this one better than Done and Dusted. I feel like we got more of that emotional connection and it was a little bit deeper than like Done and Dusted. How I said I felt like that one was a little bit surface level. This one I feel like we definitely got more of that. Okay, then this, I read the Mindfuck series. I separated them out because that's how I did it with when I read them. I don't remember everything that happens in each book, so again, I have my list here to kind of remind me. This one is The Risk. I'm gonna go ahead and say these are kind of hard because like you read them all together and as novellas, so but it's like also one big book. It's weird, but I'm gonna say for this one, would recommend but not a fave. Again, how I've been saying with series, the first book is always just kind of setting things up. Then Sidetracked, I definitely liked this one. Started to uncover more things, more details came out, more of the romance built. If you didn't know, the Mindfuck series is a serial killer romance. More of the things about what Lana was doing started coming out. I'm gonna put this one in You Were Good and Waiting for You to Be Great. Yeah, we'll put that one there. Then Scarlet Angel, I feel like I'm gonna put this in You Were Good and Waiting for You to Be Great. Again, sort of towards the middle of these novellas, I feel like I was just waiting for the big reveal at the end. I kind of started to fall off for me a little bit somewhere in the middle, I remember. And then towards the last two is when things started to pick up again. The last two, All the Lies and Painted All Red, I think I'm gonna put them in, I guess, the Talented Brilliant. I don't know, it's hard because they're individual novellas, so it's hard to rate them. Like, if I were to rate the series as a whole, it would go in the Talented Brilliant Incredible. So I think I'm gonna put the last two books there just because those were the ones where like everything happened, and like those were the ones where I was like finally understanding and you got all the answers that you were looking for. And then obviously in the last book you get like the wrap up and everything. I was very entertained by this series, absolutely entertained. Was it incredibly effed up? Yes, but it was so entertaining. Then we have The Secret History. I'll put it in would recommend but not a fave. So I don't think this book was for me. I feel so conflicted about it. After I finished it, I was like, I don't know how to feel. And even now thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know how to feel. I get that there are a lot of people that love this and why they would love it, but I just don't personally think that this type of book was for me. And I feel the same way about The Atlas Six. I feel like the plots of both of them were quite similar in certain aspects, and I don't know that this sort of dark academia, at least in that sense, is for me. It's not what I was expecting it to be, and I don't know that this like very intellectual, thought-provoking sort of storyline where things are very unclear is like something that I super enjoy. But then I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and that one is gonna go straight on up to Inject It Into My Veins. I loved this book so much. This is my second favorite book of the year. It was so good. Like, truly, I feel like this book changed me. And I know that's maybe dramatic to say, but that's how I feel. Then we have Listen for the Lie. I'm gonna go You Were Good and Waiting for You to Be Great, I think. I thought the podcast aspect was interesting, but I feel like there wasn't as big of a twist at the end that I was expecting, and it kind of started to fall a little flat for me in the middle. Like, I started to get a little bored. But it was still good. Like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting story. I actually listened to it on audiobook, which I really liked. Then we have Shatter Me. Obviously, again, start to a series, you're kind of setting the scene, building up the story. But I really liked this one. Like, it was very interesting. I liked the romance in here. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in Talented, Amazing, Brilliant. Then we have Destroy Me. This was a novella that, now thinking back that I'm further in the series, I'm like, okay, this was very interesting, but at the time that I read it, I was like, why do we have this novella? Like, I don't think this is necessary. I'll put this in would recommend, but not a fave. Like, it was just kind of mid. It was a novella. I was like, okay. Unravel Me, I remember being very frustrated with the characters in this one. This is kind of a big turning point of the series, and I remember I was like so annoyed with them, and I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, why are you doing this? And again, now that I am almost done with the series, hindsight is 2020, but at the time, I feel like I'm gonna say You Were Good and Waiting for You to Be Great. Then I took a quick pause from the Shatter Me series to read some holiday books. So we have One Day in December. I really, really loved this story. Like, it was so sweet. It was a perfect little romance. I loved how it followed them over 10 years. You get these little glimpses into their lives of these friends and kind of this journey that they go on with also like their love story, but then their personal lives. I really, really liked this one. I think I'm gonna put it into the Talented Brilliant. And we have The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. I was really excited for this one because it is a holiday romance, but it's also like a mystery thriller. And I think I expected a little bit more from this one, I will say. It was still really good though. But I think I'm gonna put this in You Were Good. I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. Also, if you want more of my opinions on these 3 holiday books, I did film a full holiday book reading vlog. Then we have My December Darling, and this one I was also very surprised by. I really liked it. I thought the romance was very sweet. Even though it was a novella, you didn't get all of the depth that I feel like you would normally get from a romance book. I thought it was really good. The only thing that I was missing was more of that like emotional depth and learning more about their past and everything. So I think for that reason, I'll put it in You Were Good. I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. But for a holiday book, this was really, really good. Then we have Fracture Me. This one, I'm gonna put this in I Wish I Never Read It because it basically just recaps what happened in the previous book from a different person's point of view, but like nothing extra is added. And I was like, why do we have this? Like this, I don't think we need this. Then we have Ignite Me. This one is so good. This is when shit starts getting crazy. I'm gonna go ahead and put this up in the Talented Brilliant because it is this, I was like, oh, I'm hooked on this series. Like I need to know everything now. Wait, I have these out of order. It's Restore Me and then Shadow Me. So Restore Me, this one, I really liked it, but I feel like the beginning, it kind of took a little bit too much time to get to like the action. I feel like we had a lot of filler content at the beginning. So I'm gonna put this one in You Were Good. I'm Waiting for You to Be Great. Then we have Shadow Me, another one of the novellas. I'm gonna put this in Would Recommend, not a fave. I mean, if you are reading the series, I would definitely recommend reading the novellas. I think it is interesting to get other characters' point of views and things like that, but I don't think they're necessary to the story. You could still read it and understand the story, but I would recommend reading them. Then Defy Me, this one was crazy as well. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one up into the Talented Brilliant because this one was like, wow. This one was like the big information dump. I feel like when you're reading a fantasy, there's always one book that's like, finally one of the characters or all of the characters figure out some things, and so there's a lot of like a big information dump. And then the last book that I read this year was another one of the novellas. Again, I'm gonna put this in Would Recommend, but not a fave. I mean, like I said, you don't need to read the novellas, but it does add a little bit more to the story. Yeah, so this is my final tier ranking. This was so much fun. I kind of zoomed out so we can see it all, but yeah, I feel like I had a very wide range of books this year, but for the majority, everything is like towards the top, which is good. That means that I read a lot of books that I really enjoyed, and there's not a lot that I like didn't like or that I forgot I read or wish I never read, which is really good. And yeah, all around, I feel like I had a really good reading year. This was super fun. If you have not done this before, I highly recommend doing it. Literally just use the Tier Maker website. And it was so much fun doing this. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Happy New Year. And I'm so excited for all of the books and videos and everything that I have planned for the new year. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and had a lot of fun. And I will see you in my next one.